Yep, it's that time again. Welcome to another edition of In the Bunch with Kutsia Ghost, the world's fastest moving cycling show. And in fact, we are action-packed as always in this episode. We cover the big changes to the Cape Town Cycle Tour. Our own Super Boykie, Super Piet, catches silver and gold at Paracycling World Championships. Eddie Kleinhand's Shaun-Nick Bester on overseas campaigns. We meet them and chat to them as well. Philip Base is all but sewn up, the National Mountain Bike Series, and of course an old teammate of mine, Grant Lottering, on his missions impossible, making it all possible. But we attended recently the Cape Town Cycle Tour's big media release, where they told us about their contingency plans to overcome the hassles of last year. You'll recall that only 40 minutes into the race, the high winds brought the race to an absolute standstill, called it off. That was the day in Herzog Boulevard, those guys with the smart hairdos and the super light bikes, they just couldn't hold on to those. Absolutely amazing. A lot of sense came out of the session, and this is what they had to say. So David Bellaire's big changes to the 2018 Cape Town Cycle to tell us all about those.
Very excited for 2018. We're looking at some significant changes, specifically those as relate to the start of the Cape Town Cycle Tour. The start of the cycle tour will move from its traditional spot at Herzog Boulevard outside the Civic Centre and will now take place in the Grand Parade precinct, starting in Castle Street, leading out onto Newmarket Street and up onto Nelson Mandela Boulevard to continue on the normal route that we would traditionally ride. This is a very exciting move because it takes us back to the original start of the cycle tour in 1978, which was outside the Cape Town's castle.
Well, you can trust David Bellaire's and the team from the Cape Town Cycle Tour to always be one bike ahead of the peloton, or the bunch, however you want to see it. Giving support to the day as well, Alan Winde. That's Minister Alan Winde, himself a very keen cyclist. I'm sure keen to get around the peninsula in 2018 without the high winds. So Minister Alan Winde, please, your thoughts on the big changes to the Cape Town Cycle Tour.
Well, I think it's always great to see that this event, this real sort of pinnacle event of the cycling calendar, that the reinvention and the thought that goes into every event, you can see it in today's announcement where they're really looking at the start. I think that really does bode well, learning from last year specifically, but also just being here at sort of launching this event again for the 40th year. For a second time, and I think it's a phenomenal event worth 500 million to the economy of the city of Cape Town, and of course really that anchor event that brings so many people from across the world to the city to take part in this magnificent sport.
And sticking to the Cape Town Cycle Tour, rumour has it that in 2018 there won't be any water points on the race due to the lack of water, the absolute drought in the Western Cape. The other option, which I believe has been tabled as well, is that should there be water points, each rider has to in fact bring 5 litres of water to the water point, which he then might get back en route. Watch the end of the show, we'll clarify that one for you before we go. Now Super Piet, the man that we've all chatted about, he's South Africa's top para-athlete at this moment. Silver medal in the time trial in the H1 category, converted that to gold in the road race, and it gives him a 4th Archon C, the rainbow jersey. What a boykie Super Piet is.
No, look, I must say, look, every time you win a world title, it's amazing, you know, so, but I think what makes this one special is obviously 2 things. The one is obviously it's in South Africa, so, you know, I felt a lot of pressure, if I can put it that way, you know, on me to perform, and sort of in our team at this stage, you know, I was sort of the one guy that everybody's expected to medal, you know, so if that pressure's on you and you go out and you do it, then obviously it's pretty cool, you know, but, you know, the second thing is obviously becoming a father earlier this year, so, you know, obviously it's my first title with a kid, with all the adjustments, and he was on the podium with me, so, I mean, that really makes it extra special, you know, so, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm really proudly South African, so obviously to win a title in your country with your family there, it's really special, you know.
And Piet, you've done it all. Laureus Sports Ambassador, the first quad to swim Robben Island, Cape Town. In fact, the first quad to also do the Ironman. This is your 4th World Championship. Does it ever sink in? Has this one sunk in yet?
As I said, all those emotions and all the hardships and the work and the family and the everything, you know, I think it's still sinking in, you know, but, you know, all the way I'm just going to enjoy it.
One of my old teammates, Grant Lottering, from the 1989 national top sport team. Remember those red and white stripes with Robbie McIntosh, myself, I think it was Alan Wallet, all of those guys in the team. Now these days, after a near-death experience in 2013 in the legendary Shaun-Nick, one of the big races in Europe, one of the Grand Fondos, he crashed and broke several bones and had a serious head injury, has now committed himself to the Laureus movement. He goes out there to raise funds in what he calls a tour impossible, not an impossible. Unfortunately, his July attempt failed. He ran into hypothermia, but we caught up with him and found out how, what, why and when it happened.
So I started the Impossible Tour knowing I've got 1,800 kilometers ahead of me, 4 days of riding. Terrible weather, and even on the first day already it was so cold. I was shivering coming down the Col de Galibier in those mountains. Through the night, it just got worse and worse and worse. It was freezing cold, gale force winds. I rode with a lot of headwinds. And after about 400 kilometers on day 2, we had to stop. My body wasn't responding any longer, and I realized that it was just not going to be possible. I ended up having hypothermia. Didn't realize that, but still did 400 kilometers. We still raised over R250,000 rand for Laureus, so I'm happy with that. And we're going to come back next year stronger, better, higher. It's going to be good.
Just imagine riding almost 2,000 kilometers unbrokenly, other than for the odd stop for a change of clothes and something to eat, down places like the Col de Galibier at 2 o'clock in the morning without the roads being closed. That is true commitment from Grant Lottering. Absolutely amazing. Sticking in Europe, but getting right across the Pyrenees this time into Spain. Nick Beste's son Shaun is one of the young pros trying his damnedest to make a career for himself on the pro tour, and he's been in Spain for a couple of seasons. Let's find out from Shaun if he's got get-home-alitis or if he's there to stay.
Well, obviously it was a great experience. It was the first time that I actually, in Volta Algarve, was the first time I actually raced against so many big names of the road discipline, and that was a good experience to see how I compared to racing against 11 World Tour teams, and what the difference in the level of not only the fitness is, but also the positioning in a bunch, how difficult it is to position yourself for the finish.
Well, racing in the top echelons of the world of cycling, Shaun-Nick has obviously rubbed shoulders with the world's best, and when we asked him about something unique about riders like Tony Martin and Michael Kwiatkowski, this is what he had to say.
Well, there was quite a few guys actually. Tony Martin, for example, it was nice to actually ride alongside him. Michael Kwiatkowski, he's actually smaller than I would think he is, and Tony Martin as well. I would think he looks very big on the bike if you see him on the television, but he's actually not that big, not that tall.
Well, and sticking in Europe now, but going back to Switzerland, that landlocked country where they say all the gold bullion in the world lives. Eric Kleinans is a man who loves Switzerland, and of course not scared to have his say either, but he let the world feel it, firstly in the Transalp and secondly in one of the other big single-day events in Switzerland. Got top results as well, Eric Kleinans, and the former national mountain bike champ had this to say.
So I think in general, I think it was just a great experience to see how everything got put together. 3 months in Europe went by so fast. I was like, I can't believe that it's already over. There's some really nice races there. So I wouldn't say on the racing front I had my best season or the best results, but I think from a personal level it was a very rewarding year.
Well, you got the big chance in the Transalp this year of teaming up with Alban Lacata instead of being a support rider to him. What was that like?
Yeah, quite a cool feeling to race with him, and we actually made a nice team. We worked well together, and at the end of the day, it also maybe showed in the results. And yeah, I mean, for me, finishing 6th, I was very close to the leaders. Some days we were, with the leading bunch for quite a while. So it was important for me to show that I can also somehow do well on those crazy climbing races. And yeah, I think it was for me probably one of my biggest achievements of the year.
Eric, you've now done 3 grand raids in the Valais area in Switzerland. Bit of comparison there, 5,000 meters of climbing all on one day. That's an unbelievable amount of climbs when a Queen stage on one of the Grand Tours is maybe 3,000 meters of climbing, almost double the work rate on a day. Having ridden it for the 3rd time, has that given you a shift in approach with all of that experience?
No, I don't think cycling in general gets any easier no matter what you do. I guess if you're in fantastic shape, then maybe it could be easier. But at the end of the day, the suffer is the same. Your position is maybe just a little bit better. I think that's the thing with cycling. You always suffer the same amount. But I think you can prepare yourself a little bit better. So I know from experience that the last climb is extremely tough if you're not, a little bit more fresh. So I always have in my mind the whole time, knowing that, don't kill yourself over the first 5 or 6 or 7 climbs, rather wait for the last really big one. You don't want to get there and you're absolutely broken.
You've all heard that sound of the trout fishermen up at Dullstroom, probably the highest altitude in South Africa and often the home of training camps of the world's top riders too. But this weekend the trout fishermen had their turn to watch the National Mountain Bike Series. It's been ultimate leg up there. Big win for Candice Lill in the women's filler base, tying up the weekend, and through that we believe the year series as well. We asked Philip how important this particular leg was in his campaign of 2017.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for any of the other guys to, get in front of Matthijs or on the general standings. And yeah, that's obviously where we want to be going into the last race. It's up to everyone else to try and beat us.
Please relax if you've been holding your breath ever since the top end of the show with a story about the Cape Town Cycle Tour and no water points, or in fact having to bring 5 litres of water to the race. David Balaise clarifies absolutely everything in this interview we had with him.
Right, so David Balaise, the rumor that's been going around that the riders this year have to deposit water back at the water table instead of taking it from the water table. Any truth in that whatsoever?
While I would love everybody to arrive here with a 2-litre camelback and make sure they're distributing water equally around the route, the truth of the matter is that we will be able to cope on the day. We have a water management plan in place and there will be sufficient hydration for you. So don't fear, you can leave your hydration packs in Johannesburg and safely come to the Western Cape in March next year.
So we want to reassure you there's no need to be concerned at all about the water on the Cape Town Cycle Tour. It is just a big joke. Trending this week on the In the Bunch portal, of course, the Cape Town Cycle Tour, the big shift of the start right on top of the pops there. Louis Meintjes and his assault on the Vuelta, number 2 on the hit parade, or on the podium that is. And the bronze medal on the podium deservedly goes there to the Best Med Cycle for Cancer, a big event just recently held. If you've enjoyed the show as much as we're doing it for you, please do subscribe to it and don't forget to tap the bell. Johnny Kuhn on behalf of Coetzee Ghost and the whole team at In the Bunch saying ciao for now, tot ziens till the next time, and goodbye.